man, this is good. This is so good. Who wrote this? Oh, you're here, my friends. Who knew? I thought the party was off. You know, with COVID-19 and the disastrous effect of that on so many lives and how it has torn apart every single city, every single region, every single country, and just about every single life. It also ripped apart our launch party for tonight. We had a theater booked in North St. Louis, this grand theater, 1,500 seats, musicians, kids, people buying flights to join us. The party was on, and there was so much sadness about everything going on, but also canceling the party. And my kids challenged me to be fun and to be joy even during this season. So my friends, followers, new colleagues, everybody who's tuning in live right now with us, I want to thank you for joining us at the live, online, virtual launch party, baby. It cannot be stopped. Not a pandemic, not a recession, not the internet connection for Joe Biden. Nothing will stop this party from happening tonight. So we are here. We are live. I am John O'Leary. It's been a while since I've had a haircut, but I am delighted and honored and thrilled to be with you. It's going to be a fun night. So let me tell you a couple things on the front side. Number one, like my friend Mike Mattingly just said, invite your friends on social media now. And I had to explain this recently to a friend of mine, but there's a new feature called Share. Share this event. They're going to love it. Comment around it. Let us know where you're tuning in from. I could not believe watching Mike sing that you guys are coming in from all over the country and all over the world. So keep letting us know where you're from. I want to read these comments. I want to hear your questions. I want this to be an interactive, awesome evening, popping champagne, celebrating life, and living in awe together. So why write a book like In Awe? That's a good question. Here's why. As an international speaker and as a guy who's had the pleasure of traveling all around the world and all over the United States, I frequently see adults looking beat down by life. This was before COVID-19. I see them feeling as if their worst days are in front of them. This is before the global recession. I frequently see them feeling like they are completely doing life by themselves. This is before forced isolation. This was what it was like in 2017, 2018, 2019 when I was writing this book. And then I would walk into classrooms and I would see these kids with long hair. And they were having something that we adults don't have quite as frequently. Fun. They would smile more frequently. They had joy in their eyes. When I would ask them a question, every single hand would go up. Every hand goes up, man. Usually before I'm done asking the question, they frequently get the answer wrong, but they are engaged. They are lit up. They are in awe of life. And so I wondered, what is it that they have that we have lost sight of as adults? And how do we return to it? If we did, what might happen in our lives? So that's the idea behind In Awe. With a group of kids I was speaking to, because I don't want you to think kids are perfect all the time. If you look over my shoulder, you see a whole bunch of them. I know better than most that kids are not perfect all the time. Don't I, kids? Well, one time I was speaking and I was fist bumping these little guys as they went back to class. One of the little guys fist bumped me. He pulled back his hand in shock. He looked at my right hand, then he looked at my left hand, then he looked into my eyes and said, "Whoa, mister, what happened to your hands?" Okay. This is after I spoke to his class for an hour. So some of you who have been invited in here by a friend, you may not have any clue what happened to O'Leary's hands. You may not have any clue what happened to O'Leary's hair. That's all right too. But he should have known. He just heard my entire talk given. So I kneel down in front of him. I look him square in the eyes and I say, "Well, little buddy, as a 9-year-old boy, I was burned on 100% of my body. I lost my fingers, but I'm doing awesome today." And he says back to me, this is a true story. We open the book with it. He looks back and he says, "Whoa, oh my gosh. We had a speaker this morning. And when he was 9 years old, he was in a fire too. Mister, you two should meet." My friends, our children occasionally get the answers wrong. They occasionally mistake what's going on in front of them. But there is no doubt that they are lit up, that they are engaged, that they are optimistic, ferociously so, that they are faithful, that they connect easily, and that they believe their best days are in front of them. I think during COVID-19, during a recession, during all the challenges we face, it is more important than ever to live in awe, And so tonight, my friends, together, I can't believe how many people are tuning in right now. I'm watching the ticker go up. So keep sharing, keep commenting, keep letting me know where you're watching from, and stay in awe, because the best of our journey remains in front of us tonight. We're going to light this thing up. Okay. So, authors are supposed to read occasionally from their book, I guess. So I thought what I would do tonight is read a couple times from this book. I'm going to begin at the very beginning and then quickly pivot to the end. But I wanted to share with you guys what the dedication was, because they're watching right now at home with their mom. We had to make sure this thing got across loud and clear without microphones being unplugged, lights being turned off, people screaming, ambulances being called, and laptops shutting or catching fire. So my kids currently are at home. I will be with them in about 45 minutes, popping champagne or at least white grapefruit juice with them. But here's my dedication to the book. By the way, the instant #1 national best-selling book. It's called In Awe. Here it is. To the little ones who ensured my life would never be the same. Jack, Patrick, Henry, and Grace. Let this book remind you always of all you taught me and how much I love you. And my children, as the years pass and as you forget to live these lessons yourself, let this book remind you to reclaim what remains possible within you. My friends, what I have learned from my kids is how to be a far better version of myself. What I've learned is how to be in awe for both the grandiose things like a sunrise, but also the seemingly insignificant things like a butterfly or a bumblebee or a flower blossoming. And tonight we get to share with you the origin story of the book In Awe. We get to share with you a few of the stories from within it. We get to take any questions that you may have. So let us know where you're coming in from. Let us know what questions you may have. Share again with your friends and your family. I think they're going to want to be a part of this one. Sometimes it's important to start at the beginning, but it's important also to begin with the end in mind. So I thought tonight, as I unpacked part of this story, I'd share the afterword with you. And there's 5 paragraphs tonight I want to share with you. Don't worry, I won't read them consecutively. You can get that on Audible. There's a discount running tonight, I would imagine. So here we go. I'm going to begin with my oldest son, Jack. This story takes place, by the way, at Bush Stadium. I saw earlier that Tommy Gersh is tuning in. Tommy Gersh has a father who I'm friends with and a mother who I'm friends with and a bunch of siblings who I'm friends with. By the way, they also are buddies with my little boys, Jack, Patrick, Henry, and their sister, Grace. But I was invited to speak to the St. Louis Cardinals and eventually to throw out the first pitch for a Cardinal game. And it was after that pitch that I wrote these words that you're about to hear. So here it is. My oldest, Jack, was at the end of the line. Here was my brave boy, my firstborn, the one who first taught me what it is to be a father, what unconditional love actually feels like, and what it can inspire us to do. He, Jack, was the first to rekindle within me a sense of wonder. And he extinguished my fears when he saw my stomach covered with scars that were red and bumpy and ridgy, but chose to love them anyway. Jack lives all in, and he reminds me every time I see him of the magnificent man, Jack Buck, he was named after. That's one of the paragraphs from the afterword in the book, In Awe. Why write that? What does it mean? Well, within that single paragraph captures probably 15 or 16 stories from within the book, just little snippets that I wanted to share with you as we wrap this thing up in that final bit of my family. But the story that I think moves me deeply, and from what we've heard from readers who have got advanced copies of this book, is the story of little Jack when he is 3 or 4 years old, and he's shaving next to me. Okay, I'm going to take this off. I know some of you are like, dude, enough with the wig, get a haircut. He's shaving next to me, and I got a razor in my right hand. He's got one in his left. It's got the cover on his. Mine is really doing the damage on my face. My shirt is off, and he starts looking away from the mirror and looking toward his daddy's belly. And on my stomach are these red, thick scars. They're thick bands that cover my stomach from the very top of my neck all the way down to the lower part of my stomach. And Jack's index finger is tracking these with his finger now. And then he looks up at me and he says, Dad, your tummy is red, it is bumpy, and it is ridgy. And I'm in my ego as an adult, getting ready to explain myself and explain that I got burned as a kid. And it's okay, man. I'll wear a shirt when I'm around your kids, when I'm around your friends, I promise. All this stuff that goes through an adult's mind. And then Jack O'Leary says, and Daddy, I love it. I just love those red, bumpy, ridgy scars on your tummy. That story and the ability that a child, and specifically in this case, Jack, and I know he's tuning in right now, has to see beauty, where the majority of us see pain and weakness and scars and brokenness. Adults tuning into my voice and kids who will eventually forget this point. Let us again return to life in the same tone. Let us again stop reading all the negative headlines about how horrible this life is and how miserable your life is. And again, be reminded how beautiful and sacred your life is. The likelihood of us being here at all. And we did the research in this book. We'll unpack it, I think, for you in chapter 19. Less than 1 in 400 trillion is the likelihood of you being born. So your life, whether you have scars or not, you will later on. Whether you have scars or not, your life is a sacred treasure. Act like it. Be like a kid again. So that's what Jack taught me in that story in his life for 14 years. And Jack, my little man watching right now, tonight was supposed to be the night he graduated 8th grade. And instead, we did a 3-minute drive-by at the teachers and the fans waving. So, Jack, we're going to have that party. But it was great to see that smile again on your face and the light again in your eyes. You deserve it, my friend. The next paragraph goes out to Jack's younger brother. His name is Patrick. So I'm going to read the paragraph, and then I'll tell you why I wrote it. Next to Jack stood Patrick. He wore his Cardinal jersey and his cap. It is his unofficial uniform of the summer. On his left hand, you guessed it, his faithful baseball glove. The kid believes. He lives in the sense of expectancy, joyfully awaiting great things everywhere. Patrick knows the next event, the next game, the next day, the next trip is going to be awesome. And he's seldom disappointed. He shows up with that glove on his hand and a smile on his face and leaves a wake of joy in the lives of everyone he encounters. It's a paragraph that succinctly sums up what I wrote about regarding Patrick O'Leary in the book. Why I write that? For those of you who have not yet stepped into the book, let me just be judgmental for a moment. You've had 72 hours to finish. So I don't know what your excuse is. I know some of you are homeschooling, working full-time, and trying to deal with a global pandemic, but no excuses. You've had 72 hours to finish this book and get into that story. But for those who have not yet been there, here's the story. Patrick O'Leary wears his baseball glove everywhere. And on the first time that I took him on a daddy's trip, every year I take my kids back in the good old days when we could travel freely to a trip where dad was speaking. They get to choose where they go. They get to choose where we stay. They get to choose what we do. They get to choose where we eat. They get to choose everything when we're on the road. And so Patrick chose Kansas City. We get in the car, and what I noticed first about Patrick is the smile on his face, the Cardinal hat on his head, and the glove on his left hand. We got a 3.5-hour drive in front of us. So I encourage him to take it off, to throw it back in the garage. He won't need it, but he brings it. He wears it the entire time. He wears it throughout the entire game. I know he's wasting his time. I've been to 1,000 games. I've never caught a baseball. He's got the glove on in the 8th inning, and a ball is shot down the left field line. It's from our right fielder, Dexter Fowler, pops off the dugout, pops over my head. I duck. I don't have a glove, and I don't have any courage. So I'm getting out of the way of this ball. Patrick O'Leary stands up while I duck. He raises his left hand high, and into that glove pops a baseball. And I look over to him thinking, he is the luckiest kid I have ever seen. Luck. The deal with luck is, though, this. You don't get a whole lot of luck if you don't bring a glove. You don't get a whole lot of luck if you don't have the courage to stand when everybody else is ducking. You don't get a whole lot of luck if you're not watching every pitch, getting ready for the next thing to come your way. Patrick proves out in this book and in his life and in our lives the gift of expectancy. It's sense number 2 that we unpack in the book, expectancy. I know of no one who lives it more beautifully and more rawly than my little second-born, brown-eyed, brown-haired little boy named Patrick O'Leary. What you think will come into your life, listeners and viewers and friends, Christy and everybody else tuning in from around the country and around the world, what you think will come into your life frequently does. And for the cynics in the room, you will get what you expect. For those of you who smell flowers and you look for the coffin, don't be surprised when your life is miserable up and down, whether the sky is sunny or gray. Be like Patrick, though. Expect great things and just don't be surprised when they show up in your glove. So Patrick O'Leary, you have taught me that, my friends, and I appreciate you. I love you. I'm grateful for you. You're awesome. And the only person I love equally to you, there's 4 of you now, so let me give you the third one, is a little boy. He's got blonde hair. He's got blue eyes. He's a bit mischievous. He is lit up on fire for life. But Henry, I already wrote that book, so I had to write a new one. This one's called In Awe. And no one sums up Henry O'Leary in awe more than you, my friend. So let me read you a paragraph in the end of the book that summarizes your lessons to me. Here they are. Next to Patrick stood Henry. He is my spirited leader who wears his emotions on his sleeve. Trees, Henry thinks, are to be climbed. Rocks are to be jumped off. Life is to be explored passionately. He exudes a sense of belonging. I love that sense. He exudes a sense of belonging and still sees friends everywhere he looks. And because that's what he chooses to see, that's what he always finds. He sometimes gets scared, but he still shows up. That's the paragraph about my little boy Henry's journey forward in life as we capture the essence of this book through the ladies and gentlemen, the little ones who taught me the lessons. And the third lesson was taught by Henry O'Leary. Belonging, dreaming, wondrous spirit, vibrancy for life, ferocious optimism. Henry O'Leary's got it in spades. That last line, though, for those who haven't read the book yet, I get it. Let me share it again with you and then unpack it for you briefly during our telecast today. By the way, if you're just tuning in right now, a couple things. One, where are you tuning in from? Let me know. So I want to know where you're from. Secondly, what questions might you have? Whether we get to them tonight or we respond to them later on, I promise you, we will get to them. So what questions do you have for me regarding this book or regarding life? And then thirdly, share. What a cool opportunity to say, hey guys, guess what? The Tiger King's not the only thing on tonight. I mean, we can get to it later on. It's going to rock. We don't know what's going to happen with this dude. It's going to be good. We know that. Ozark is not the only program we can watch tonight. Apparently, O'Leary's on right now, Unpacking in Awe. So tell your friends right now online that they ought to be joining us because they should. This is going to be great. Get ready for it. This one's about Henry. And the final line from Henry's paragraph is this. He sometimes gets scared, but he still shows up. Where did I get that line from? For those who read it, you already know about this one. But I was taking Henry to baseball practice. He was already pretty close to being a professional. He was in kindergarten. So he knew which side the glove went on, and he knew kind of how to throw the ball. And he generally knew that about half the time you're in the field chasing butterflies, the other half of the time you're waiting to hit. Besides that, he knew very little about baseball at that point. And looking in the mirror, I could see that he was just full of anxiety. He was just nervous. He was just scared about going, about leaving home, about going to this ball field, about meeting new kids. So I asked him as I looked in the mirror, Henry, are you doing all right? And he looked back with those precious blue eyes and that blonde hair covering his eyes. And he said, Daddy, I'm just scared. I'm just scared. But once I go, it's okay. Going is always the hard part because once I'm there, I'm fine. I'm fine. My friends, I think that is so true for a kindergarten boy showing up for a baseball practice. Once you go, you'll be fine. Smack him on the bottom, get him out on the field, and he'll be fine. It's also true in life. So many of the things that we choose not to do are because we had some fear and anxiety around it, so we chose to stay at home instead. We chose to build walls instead. We chose to mask up instead. We chose to be anybody other than who we actually are instead. Going is hard. Going is scary. But once you're there, it's good. It was a lesson that was taught to me by a 6-year-old blonde-haired, beautiful boy named Henry William O'Leary. It's one that he's going to teach you as you step into the book in awe. And before I get to the 2 leading ladies in my life, I did want to make sure that you knew I love you. There's nothing you can do about it, that I'm looking at you. You're staring back at me. And that I wanted to take a couple questions that you may have for me right now. So here's what we're doing. Carrie, Shady, and Abby, and everybody else who's online right now. I see your names flying up right now. And Carrie, I'm glad you got the book today. But if you have any questions right now, I would love to see the questions pop up on the screen. Shout out to your name and try to be as authentic as I can. We'll do this 2 or 3 times throughout our time. Some of them, like as I read them, other times via video. So get ready for that one as well. And I'll introduce you to a couple special friends here in a moment. So get ready for that. If you haven't yet shared, share right now. And first one's from Faith Harper. Faith, the hair is on point. Congratulations on the perfect launch from Birmingham, Alabama. In the house, baby. Well, Faith Harper, I'm glad you are in the house. I'm glad my hair It's a little darker, I think, when I had the wig on, was working for you. I'm also glad you're in Alabama. In the first book, I wrote quite a bit about my love affair with Alabama. So, Keith, if you're tuning in right now, baby, you know I love you. There's nothing you can do about it. I fell in love with Alabama in 2017 with the Storms. And I fell in love with Alabama Power Company. And I fell in love with Alabama football. And I'm not going to tell you what my mascot is, because right now I got you all. I got Auburn and Alabama together as one. That's rare that you get to hug Crimson Tide and Auburn at the same time. But I'm hugging you all right now in Alabama. So thank you for being from Alabama. And Holly. Holly's saying, John, what an awesome human you are. How blessed each of us are to learn from you and to be inspired by you. Holly, I appreciate that. That's probably actually my mom's username tonight. It sounds like something my mom would have said. So, Mom, I don't know why you're going by the name Holly Tucci tonight, but I appreciate that. And Holly, truly, when I share, whether it's on a live broadcast like tonight or in a book or a presentation, a newsletter, social media post, I'm just holding up the mirror, reminding you what is possible within your life. So John O'Leary is not that extraordinary. What he does well, I think, is to hold up a mirror to remind you how extraordinary you are. So my friends, keep those questions coming in right now. If you have them, I want to see them. Tommy Gersh wrote, GOAT. Tommy, I love you, man. There's nothing you can do about it. With you, man, sometimes I need love. Like doesn't always work with Tommy Gersh. Trisha Ray, so proud of you, buddy. Trisha, I'm proud to have been able to call you a friend since you were 5 years old. So I'm glad you're at the book launch. And I'm glad to call you a friend still today. And the final one I'll read right now, Allison Reed. Thank you for the beautiful, inspiring books, podcasts, and all you do. Tuning in from Saratoga Springs, New York, baby. Been up in Saratoga Springs twice. I love Saratoga Springs, man. It's an incredible part of the country, and I'm glad you're tuning in from it tonight. So spoken at a couple of healthcare conferences in Saratoga Springs. So my friends, I wanted to move forward. I'll come back to your questions and your thoughts here momentarily, but I wanted to get into my two leading ladies. Right now at home, I'm in the doghouse with both of them. One of them has blonde hair. One of them has brown hair. So we'll start with this cute little blondie that you see up on the screen right now. Her name is Grace. And on page 215, for those of you following along at home with the read along, standing in her favorite spot right next to me was Grace. Her blonde hair was pulled back. Her brilliant blue eyes sparkled through her glasses as she took in the commotion all around her. This little girl taught me to rekindle that sense of immersion in life, to savor the moment, to play hard every day, to talk about my feelings, and to see my inherent worth. There was nothing to hide from, nothing to apologize for. After all, I'm her dad. I'm her dad. And maybe I was burned when I was little, but I'm all better now. Perfect the way I am. That is a lesson that Grace O'Leary taught me, not only in the newly released #1 instant national best-selling book called In Awe, my friends, available at all fine retailers, but also taught me through the first 8 years of her life. So I'm going to bring you back to that final sentence, and then I'll bring the lady that I get to party with every night. So before we move on to Elizabeth Grace, my wife, Beth, Grace O'Leary, you're at home right now. You know I'm wild about you, but this last line. After all, I'm her dad. I'm her dad. And maybe I was burned when I was little, but I'm all better now. I'm perfect the way I am. Where did I get that sentence from? Why write it here in this book? Great questions, my friends. Here's where I got it from. I was picking Grace up from her first day of school, and there's some arguments in our family whether that meant preschool or pre-K. But it was early in her academic career. I'm on the sidelines. I'm getting ready to draw the kids from their school. And I know we got some teachers right now from Holy Redeemer right here in St. Louis. That's our school. So a shout out to the families, to the administration, to our incredible teachers from Holy Redeemer. This is my final girl to go through Holy Redeemer. So I'm with her. She runs over to me at the end of her first day. Grace hands me her backpack. She gives me a hug. I try to ask her how her first day is, but she's already getting ready to run off and play. But before she can run off, a new friend that she made that day walks over. She looks at me and she says, why does your dad, she's talking to Grace, why does your dad have puppy dog hands? So I slapped her. That is not what I did, people. Please. Okay, push the red wine a little bit farther away. Let's be serious for a moment. I just sat there for a moment thinking, how do I want to respond to this? How do I want to respond? And before I even could, Grace looked at me, looked at the girl, looked back at me like, what do you mean, puppy dog hands? What are you talking about? So she said, what do you mean? To the little one, what do you mean? And this little girl says, his fingers look so different than everybody else I know. Grace looks at me, looks at my hands, looks at the little girl, her new friend, who she's still friends with, by the way. That's an amazing little girl. And my daughter Grace says, nothing's wrong with his hands. My daddy just got burned when he was a little boy, but he's fine now. He's all better. He's perfect. My friends, what an awesome way to deal with someone who we disagree with. You Republicans listening right now, and you Democrats listening right now, and those of you who want a much higher wall on our southern border listening right now, and those of you who want no wall at all right now, and those of you who think you need the right membership to enter into a church or a synagogue or a mosque listening right now. What an awesome way to meet people that we might disagree with just a little bit, with love, with openness, and with truth. That little girl saw not brokenness in me, but beauty. What do you see when you see yourself, my friends? What do you see when you see your gray hairs or your wrinkles or pants that don't quite fit the way they did last summer, in particular after the last 65 days of a pandemic? What do you see? Grace sees beauty. Grace sees perfection. She sees all better. She sees all better. And I think I know where she learned it. It's not from her dad. It's from the fifth individual who is part of this program tonight. And I got a couple more special guests lined up, so stay tuned. If you haven't yet shared, there's a preview at her right now. It's not the guy in the blue shirt and the khakis. It's the much prettier version of that guy in the white dress with the brown hair, the lipstick, the earrings, and the magnolias or whatever those are blooming beautifully behind. Is it a hydrangea? Correct me online right now. Tell me what kind of flower that is. So that is my my beautiful wife, Beth. And here is her paragraph. Just past Beth, just past Jack, I witnessed the unbounded beauty of my wife, Beth. With her brunette hair falling onto her shoulders, she turned and she caught my gaze. A smile lit her face. She hadn't been at the stadium 30 years earlier for John O'Leary Day at the ballpark, but she knew how much this meant to me, what it symbolized. Someone once told me that you'll never be more attracted to your spouse than on your wedding day. But every single time I see Beth, I'm convinced she is more stunning, more striking, and more beautiful than the time before. She just keeps getting better. And I'm blown away that she chose me and that she still does. She is the reason I have these children to love and to raise and to learn from. Woo! We're just getting going, baby. If you haven't shared this yet right now, do so now. You may want to share this with your spouse or your partner, your boyfriend or your girlfriend, because this next story is one they might need to take some notes on. Beth, I could spend all night bragging on you. Instead, I'm just going to spend a little bit of time bragging on how we can see beauty in those around us. In 2016, I released a book that some of you may have heard of. Some of you may have read. It's a beautiful book called On Fire. It became a #1 national bestseller. It's been translated unbelievably. For a guy who barely has a grasp of the human English language, this has been translated, I think, into 15 languages now. It's a cool book. So I spent a lot of time in that book unpacking my love and my respect and my admiration for my wife, Beth. But I also got busy that year. It was my busiest professional year ever. It was the release of our book, On Fire. I spoke more frequently to larger audiences, longer book lines, everything like that, that drew me away from where I really should have been and with whom I really should have been investing my time in. And I found myself not falling out of love, but losing sight of what mattered most in front of me. So on January 1, 2017, and Mike Gersh, I know you know the story because you and I have chatted about it, but on January 1, 2017, I wrote in a new journal 2 words, Dear Beth, Dear Beth. And then I went on from there to brag on where I saw beauty in her that day, what I saw her do, the cool things taking place around us because of her actions. And then on January 2nd, I had another entry. It said, Dear Beth. And then I made another entry into where I saw beauty from her radiating through her actions, through her words, through her heart, the way she taught our kids, the way she treated them, the way she treated me, the way she made meals for others, the way she got our kids through all the activities every day without asking for anything in return. And then January 3 came along and I had to figure out a way to do it again. So I looked for it. And it's cool in life. What you look for, you find. So I found it on day 3, day 4, day 5. And I kept an entry of every single day during 2017 of where I saw beauty in Beth. And although some days it was a struggle, That's a joke, by the way. I hope I'm not going to sleep in the doghouse again. Every single day I looked for beauty in Beth. I found it. And on Christmas morning, 2017, in an old, ugly wrapping paper, I handed my wife the first good gift I've ever given her. She apparently doesn't always like the gifts that I give her. You can ask her kids about that one. I give the worst gifts, but this year I gave the right one. She opened up this journal. She read the first entry and then the second one. She looked up at me and she said, "Why'd you do this? Why'd you do this?" And I told her that I wanted to track her beauty. I wanted to be focused on what she had, not the things that we were arguing about from time to time as a married couple, but the beauty that she radiated, the goodness that she is, the life that she's given me, the life that she gives our community. Those who know her around my backyard in St. Louis, Missouri, in our church at Holy Redeemer, they just know her to be this humble, beautiful, cool, fun, playful woman who still takes my hand. She still takes my hand. And so I kept an entry every day for a year of Beth O'Leary, and it was probably the best year yet up until that point for us as a couple, because I was focusing on the good, finding it, and reflecting it. So my friends, for those of you looking for good in our president or in Obama, in our Congress or the one before, the one to come, in this financial situation, in this pandemic, and wherever you're looking in life and you're not seeing it, here's what I'm challenging you to do tonight before we turn the page on these 5 amazing characters. Look for the good. Keep an entry nearby. Track what you see and watch what happens this year. You will magnify the very things that you're looking for. Beth was already beautiful, but sometimes in the busyness of life, we miss it. And what I would say to you right now, listening at home as you get ready to share this with your friends and family, you are already a miracle. You are a gift. Where you live is stunning. Look out the window if you need evidence, but you got to sometimes track it. So that's from a chapter on expectancy called Wonder. Okay, so check that one out. My friends, I wanted to pivot now because I've heard from many of you online, you're kind of sick of seeing O'Leary's face. And I don't blame you. I'll get the wig on if that helps. I don't think it will help entirely. Maybe I'll wear it backwards so you'll only see my nose and hear my words. We'll come back to that later on. But 2 of the great giants in my life weren't in that part of the story I just recaptured for you. They are my mom and my dad. And so what I did is the book came out on Tuesday is I went out, I brought the very first copy off the press to my mom and dad. I brought them a couple cookies. I've seen a couple pictures of my mom and dad online, by the way, holding up their cookies, proudly eating up the book in awe. So I sat with them and from about 9 feet away and just visited with them about our story and like how amazing it is. And as we were going forward, I'm like, guys, I can't have you live at the event that we were going to do. I don't trust our Wi-Fi signal. So would you mind if I just asked you a couple questions right now? Would you mind if I asked you a couple questions right now? And of course, my mom and dad were completely open to it. And so what I wanted to do with you tonight is for you to witness my mom and dad in action, for me to ask them a couple questions that I asked them live, for you to share any feedback that you want with me or with them, but realize that these are the heroes of my life. They're why I've written a couple #1 national bestsellers. They're why I have confidence in today and faith for tomorrow. So I wanted to introduce you to my parents. And the first question I asked my mom, I said, "Mom, you know what On Fire did? It went gangbusters. And you've already heard what the book In Awe is beginning to do. Besides my English teacher from DeSmet Jesuit High School, is there anyone more surprised than you, Susan O'Leary, that I not only graduated high school and college, but that somehow this guy is running his own business and is writing books that people are somehow reading?" And I want to share with you her answer.
Well, John, I've been asked if I was surprised that you made it through college as you did. And I said, yes, we were, but our biggest shock was 3rd grade because we were very uncertain whether you would make it through 3rd grade and on to 4th. And I will say you were creative, always creative. And I think this story represents that fact well. I got a call one day when you were in 3rd grade from Mrs. Charno. And Mrs. Charno spoke with me for a while. And I thought, what is this about? I used to get a few calls from Sister Mary Constance, but I hadn't gotten any from Mrs. Charno yet. And Mrs. Charno said, "Mrs. O'Leary, did you by chance see John's math paper?" Mrs. Charno, "No, I didn't. Did they have a test?" "Yes, Mrs. O'Leary. I had a feeling you hadn't seen it because John returned it and in a very unusual handwriting was just written Susan. And I thought you'd probably put your last name. That was the beginning of thinking maybe John is not destined for a scholastic future. Maybe we ought to go into something else with the land. But John, you made it through. No one was happier than Daddy and myself when you did, believe me.
I take a great offense to my mom telling that story on live international television tonight, but what can you do? It's out there now, and I can't do anything about lying when I got an F that I signed the name Susan. No O'Leary. I printed it, and it looked horrible. And so the next time it happened, I did learn my lesson. This time I used the word Mr. O'Leary. So that's a true story. We'll let my dad tell that some other time. But now I want to keep the lens directed toward my mom. For those of you watching the video right now, you see behind her this beautiful piece of wooden furniture. And you're not even probably sure what that is, but that's my great-grandmother's piano. And all 6 O'Leary kids, and there are 6 of us tuning in right now, have been forced to take piano lessons on that darn piano. None of us wanted to do it. We all had to do it. And I assumed after being burned, I'm out of here. I was done. So I asked my mom as we sat together on Tuesday, the day in all launch, I said, Mom, tell our listeners why you made me take piano class. Because I want to hear it from you, Mom. Why did you make me take piano class? And I'll let my mom explain and share her answer.
John, do you know, I think what happened to me was a radical transformation when you were burned. And I was truly given by the Lord just a hard, strong faith and gumption, knowing that things could be done. It would be very difficult, but we could face things and we could do them. And one of the things I thought of, because I always loved piano, and that's why I have Grandma and Grandpa Kilker's piano. I don't know how old that is back there behind us. I thought if you could learn to play piano, which seemed impossible at the time, you could go on and do anything that seemed to be a challenge and conquer it and do it mightily. So I called Mrs. Bartlow and told her the situation. Of course, she knew all about your accident and all the time in the hospital. And she agreed to come. And I said nothing more to her. And she came. You were shocked out of your mind. I know we were in the breakfast room at the time when the doorbell rang. And you probably didn't say anything because our doorbell rang a lot when you were here. And there was Mrs. Barlow. And she came into the kitchen. And I know you were stunned, to say the least. But you were probably thinking it was for Jim or Amy. And lo and behold, I released the brakes on your chair and pushed you into the living room where we are right now, and pretty much left you there with Mrs. Barlow. And she devised her own program for you, and it was sensational. And John, all I can say is, look at you now, buddy. Look at you now. If that piano lesson and that commitment there didn't give you the ability to keep on fighting, I don't know what else did. It was a special time.
So if you notice, my mom held her Cape Cod high, and either that ice had done some massive melting. That's my hope. Or that was a stiff drink to celebrate the launch, baby. So, Mom, you know I love you. You know I'm proud of you. You know I'm grateful for all you've done for me and my siblings and my dad, who is my other hero. You talked about unlatching the brakes on my wheelchair, and before you had the opportunity to do so, Dad did. And one of the cool things we did together as a family, and it was my mom and dad and Jim and Katie and Amy and Susan and Laura. Everybody went down there. We all went to the ballpark together on August 26th. 1987, we celebrated what Jack Buck had promised John O'Leary did at the ballpark. Standing behind me, though, the entire night was my dad. It was my dad. And so while we sat together reminiscing about our lives and our journey, looking back and then looking forward, I asked my dad, hey, Dad, Tell me what you remember about John O'Leary Day at the ballpark. And before my dad answers, I want to share with you this. On the chance that you've never met my father before, you should know that my dad has had Parkinson's disease for almost 3 decades and has never complained about Parkinson's disease during the 3 decades. With all the falls, all the challenges, all the things that he has lost, he has never, ever complained. He is exhibit A of what it looks like to live in awe. So Dad helps me certainly compose a healthy chunk of this book through his example. So when you hear his voice, it might be a bit faint, but recognize it's the roar of the lion coming at you. So listen closely. You won't want to miss it. Dad, remind me and our friends what you remember from John O'Leary Day at the ballpark 33 years ago.
That was 30 years ago. It's a long time, but I remember it as something yesterday. The memory comes to me was your reaction to it as Jack Buck led us into the dugout. I pushed in the wheelchair, and you're being greeted by 25 players, all of whom were heroes to you. The only other thing that I would have to tell you about that, back to the baseball game itself, was when Jack Buck asked you if you were having fun. And you said,
my dad bothers me. Okay. Even though he's got Parkinson's disease, it's not fair for him to make fun of me at a launch event like this. So I'm going to let it slide because he's a full 9-minute drive from where I'm recording this right now. But Dad, you know I love you, and you know I'm not quite done with you yet. I have the great pleasure of occasionally taking my dad on the road with me. And what I've always been amazed by, and this has been happening now for 8 years or so when Dad travels with me, after I'm done speaking and at the end of the event, and as we line up in the back of the room to say hello to all of our friends and all of our new colleagues and all the people who have attended the conference, they line up in droves, but they're not lining up to meet me. They want to meet my dad. He just exemplifies grace and courage and everything good that we long for from our leaders today. Dad has it. Dad has it. So I asked my dad, Dad, why do you think it is that a man who has dealt with so many difficulties as you have are as beloved and as respected, and people stand in a line simply to hug you? Why is that? And so I'll let my dad share with his own answer right now.
I don't know. I think probably the charisma that you have, that you exude when you're talking to a group, you give me credit for much more than I would entitle to credit for. And you seem like a real good guy. And because of that, they see some of me and you and me, whichever way it is. And it causes them to have elevated expectation of what I can say, what I can do, or what I can be.
Chris Comerford says, I like John O'Leary. He's all right, but I love his parents. And Christopher Comerford, I could not agree more with you than that. John's fine. John's an okay dude. Ask his friends. You'll be underwhelmed by their responses. But his parents, oh man, they're extraordinary. And we could spend the rest of the night on them, but it's not about them tonight. This is about you. It's about living in awe. Behind them, you saw this gorgeous piece of furniture. You heard a little bit about the story. And so, my friends, in a moment, I'm going to be seated at that piano. We recorded this on Tuesday. The sun was shining bright. My parents were in the other room. Mom was drinking her Cape Cod. Dad was drinking his gin and tonic. He was in his wheelchair. She was right next to him with her arm around them, and they were listening to this song that I was about to play. It was an awesome moment together. We wanted to share it with you, but before I do, I hope you share it with others. So if you have not yet shared this feed, if you've not yet asked your questions, if you've not let us know where you're entering in from, let us know your region, let us know your city, your town, your state, your country. We want to celebrate this global impact together, and you'll want to know that because the song I'm about to play was not written by me. It's written by a guy from across the pond in the UK. Chris Martin is his name. The band is called Coldplay. And I'm learning 3 songs from Coldplay right now. I'm learning Yellow for You, Ricky Powell. I'm learning a song called Fix You, which I'm loving. But for some reason, my wife says I'm playing way too loud. So I got to watch the decibel level on Fix You. And the one song that I really, really, really love to play is the one you're about to hear. As I'm about to play this, let your friends and family know, but also recognize that Chris Martin is probably not looking over his shoulders concerned about his job yet. But Martin, during this pandemic, I'm trying to get a little bit better. So you should be concerned, man. So ladies and gentlemen, we wanted to take pause as we get ready to go into your questions here in the second half of the show with a musical interlude. It is a song by Coldplay. The song is called The Scientist, and the rendition is given by a guy with no fingers who thought his life was over until his mother insisted that he unleash those brakes, move to the piano, and realize that the best of his days remained in front of him. So this is a song by Coldplay. I'm back. I hope you got those lighters out during that song. I hope you were rocking like this during that song. One of my friends, his name is Rob Goga, texted, "You look better with the wig on." The wig's back, Goga. Okay, so the wig is back on, my friends. We are ready to rock and roll for the rest of the night. We're in the home stretch now. We are in the home stretch. I wanted to take a couple questions that apparently were videotaped in to us. If you have not yet had an opportunity to ask your very own question, please do so now. If you haven't had a chance to share, now's a great chance for you to do exactly that. And so we're going to pivot now into a couple questions that came in online from a couple friends of ours. The first one, I believe, is John Gordon.
Hey, John O'Leary, John Gordon here, your number one fan, fellow speaker, best-selling author, 20 books, 8 bestsellers, 4 million copies sold. I'm not saying that to brag. I'm just saying that because that's the work I do. And we both know that it's all about positivity. So my question is this of you, John. I admire you so much and what you've been through. How are you staying positive right now? And what are you telling other people who are going through a challenging time right now, who don't believe that the best is yet to come? Would love to hear your answer. Thanks, John.
So John Gordon is an amazing guy, incredibly positive, practical, pragmatic, and a guy worthy of following, and a friend of mine, and I'm fortunate to claim that. How do I stay positive? The hair tells part of the story. Happiness. Happiness is when your cell phone is new and full of batteries. Misery is when you drop it. Happiness is when you have an ice cream cone that is packed high with sugary goodness. Pain is when it melts in your hands. Happiness, in other words, is fleeting. Happiness is your 401k in February. Pain is your 401k in March. You follow? So frequently we're looking for positive things as an external gift to us, things we get. What do I get out of that thing? What do I get from this dinner? What do I get from that relationship? Joy is dependent upon none of that. Joy is dependent upon a choice to be steadfast in your spirit, regardless of the season. It's the ability to smile when you're on top of the world, arms raised in victory, but also when you feel utterly beat down by it all. And so John Gordon, and for those wondering, how do you stay positive? By trying my very best not to get stuck in the negativity of the moment, by trying my very best to stay out of the things that bring me down, by trying my very best to remain faithful in any given set of circumstances, by choosing my attitude, choosing my mindset, choosing my words, and choosing my next steps, frequently making mistakes, but then trying my very best to do better going forward. That serves us well during a pandemic. But this too shall pass, as Susan O'Leary once taught me. This too shall pass. It will serve you well, though, also during a time of great prosperity to come. So choose joy. Everything else is taken already, so choose joy. The second question is going to roll in from a friend of mine in California, but he originally came from Ireland. So he's from my own homestead itself. His name is Brian Buffini. He's a guy that I've looked up to, a guy that I've respected, a guy that I want to be more like in the way he runs his business, the way he serves his clients, the way he loves his family, and in the way he lives his faith. So this question is from Brian Buffini.
John O'Leary, Brian Buffini popping by. How you doing, pal? I'm coming to you live from San Diego, California, where we run the largest business coaching company in the world. And we have been such a big fan of yours for decades. You've blessed us at so many of our conference and events. And I'm fired up about this new book, bro. I love the idea of rediscovering our childlike wonder to unleash inspiration, meaning, and joy. I have a question for you, buddy. Let me ask you this. What surprised you the most about writing this book?
So Brian Buffini, that energy you saw is on him 24/7. One of my colleagues, her name is Abby Richter, and I flew out to California to learn from the Buffini Company. And she said after 29 hours with Buffini and O'Leary, she needed a 2.5-week vacation. The energy that guy brings into every room always is contagious. It is lit up, and he's a man that says the right things with the right tone, but then he has the audacity to actually walk it forward. So, Brian, I think what surprises me the most about writing the book in awe is, this sounds like a boop, boop, tooting your own horn. I wrote it during a period of time where the stock market was at a historic high, where unemployment was at a historic low, and where 94.5% of news stories were negative. I wrote it at a period of time where you could move around freely. Anywhere you want to go. It's not a problem. There's nothing to worry about. And yet even then, I wrote it in a period of time where Cigna did a study and found that more than 56% of people felt as if they were isolated. I wrote it in a period of time where for 5 consecutive years, the North American population had felt more negative about their future than they felt about their past, meaning we're trending downward for the first time in anyone's memory. So I wrote it at a period of time with profound prosperity where no one knew it, where no one even knew it. And here it comes out into the headwind. I mean, could you imagine in some regards a worse time to launch a book than into a recession, into a pandemic? Many bookstores are closed. Conferences aren't happening. Travel's not going. Like, it's a tough time. Could there be a better time? Could there be a better time to be reminded and renewed in what it looks like to live in awe? I had a very difficult meeting at my work. We were on a FaceTime conversation with all my colleagues, and I left this just kind of dispirited by how hard work is right now. It's 56 degrees. This is about a month ago. And I'm going home. I'm just weighed down by the stresses of the day. And I pull into the driveway, and my neighbors to the right, it's 56 degrees and cloudy. They are 2 9-year-old kids, the girls in a swimsuit, the boys in a swim trunks. They are running through the sprinkler. They're laughing. They're high-fiving. They're having the freaking time of their life. Kids can remind us in any season that you get to choose how you dance in the weather. And so, Brian, what surprises me the most is that it has come out at this most unusual time. I never imagined living during a pandemic. I thought it was something from a history book. And yet here we are. And what better reminder that we can return to childlike wonder than now. So that's one thing that I'm certainly reminded of. My friends, if you haven't commented your questions in right now, you may want to right now, because I'm about to open up the mic to you. So any questions, I'm looking forward to hearing from you. And before we take any questions that you have right now, 2 things. Number 1, I'm a board member of Big Brothers Big Sisters because I'm passionate about Big Brothers Big Sisters, because I was a little myself in a hospital bed. And then for, 20 years or so that followed, I've been a little, many times in my life. And I saw the need to be a big. I saw a need to be a difference maker. I saw a need to be a champion for those that might have a bit less, but have a lot more to teach than we. And so I became active with my wife 17 or so years ago. We matched up with a little boy who is still part of our family. His name is Travion House. So shout out to my friend, my little brother Travion. We had him for about 11 years. He graduated into life. Great story. My wife and I got busy. We had 4 kids. Some of you may know this. But then we realized, man, there's still a need. So we matched up again with an incredible little guy named Cal. Every time I see Cal, man, I don't see negativity. I don't see pandemic. I don't see recession. I don't see, how's your market doing? I see a little boy who is on fire and absolutely lit up for life. His eyes tell the story. His smile gives him away. And I'm blessed to not only be able to be his big brother, but to introduce him to my kids, Jack and Patrick and Henry and Grace, as their sibling. So we get to match up with this little boy. But on a board call about 3 weeks ago, we went around and we talked about some of the challenges that we face. And Big Brothers Big Sisters executive, Becky, who I love, I think she's the finest executive I've ever met. And I've spoken 2,000 times around the world to some pretty worthy organizations. No one finer than Becky. Becky's amazing, and she was sharing some of the heartache that Big Brothers Big Sisters of Eastern Missouri was facing, and it moved me. It just moved me. So all pre-sales for the book In Awe and all first week sales for the book In Awe, and that's the lion's share of the books that are going to be sold in the foreseeable future, are not going to go to John O'Leary, who could benefit from that right now during a pandemic and during a recession. They're going to go to Big Brothers Big Sisters. And so just recognize as you read this book, as you share this story, not only are you going to get an awesome life-giving book, not only are you going to get some great ideas that are practical, that you can put into play that would change your life, you are going to fundamentally change the life of littles around our region, and I believe around the world. One life matters. And one by one, we've proven this out. We can, in fact, change the world. So Big Brothers, Big Sisters, I'm seeing the shout out from you down there right now. I love you guys. There is absolutely nothing you can do about it. So I'm glad that collectively we can make a difference. So for those of you who have already invested in the book In Awe, thank you for that. And just recognize you're touching their lives. And I'm extraordinarily grateful, and so are they. So that's our way of saying thank you to them. The other thing that I'm seeing online, there's been a lot of negativity. I don't know if you've heard, but social media's got a little bit of negativity. Mainstream media's got a little bit of negativity. But then as you look through the feeds over the last 4 days or so, it's just been packed with goodness. And so I wanted to share a little bit of the joy that we are seeing online as people are sharing their experiences with this book, the pictures of them living in awe. So we're going to show a couple pictures of that right now so you could see what we're seeing in the community and be as inspired, certainly as I am, by their posts. So guys, Neil, go ahead and run those pictures right now. So pretty cool to see what's taking place in the community around the world. And this last slide is one of my favorites. We, on Tuesday, became an instant #1 national bestseller for the second time, according to Amazon. For a while this week, we were sold out of books online, which is pretty shocking, actually. So Big Brothers, Big Sisters, get ready for it, because the train is coming into the station, I believe. Thank you for your work and your support around that. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions at all right now, send them in. We'll pop them up on the screen. These are all going to be coming in real time. So ask away. We're going to spend just a couple minutes taking any questions you may have. I'll have a final story to share near the end. And at the very, very end, we'll leave it up to Mike Mattingly, who is an incredible musician and great friend, to take us home. So this one comes from Abigail Brown. What advice would you give to a person who wants to write a book but is unable to talk verbally? Wow, Abigail. What I would say to you, you may call bull on this. John O'Leary is an introvert. John O'Leary stumbles on his words all the time. John O'Leary is frequently inarticulate and could never run for office because they would catch him. The other side, whoever the other side is, would catch him and mistaken phraseology all the flipping time. And so I stumble all the time in my life, but I think what people find, and when you say nonverbal, I'm curious later on what it means, but if you mean partially nonverbal, you don't need to have just the right words and just the right structure to touch people's lives. I think the power of presence is highly underrated. Some of the greatest teachers in my life never said a word. One of the great teachers in my life was Lavelle. Lavelle was my janitor at St. John's Mercy in 1987. His tool was not a typewriter. It was a broom and a mop. He was my custodial staff member. He would gently play the radio by my bedside, and that man would sweep the floor. After that, he would clean the floor like it was no one's business. He never spoke to me. I don't even know what his voice sounded like, but he encouraged me. And so what I would say to anybody who feels as if they're nonverbal, either through choice or because that's just the way we were born and that's the way things are, is you can have a profound impact on people's lives by sharing your heart. Stephen Hawkins, I think, was fairly nonverbal as well and has written some amazing masterpieces, whether you completely agree with them or completely disagree with them. He was certainly able to get his ideas on the paper and eventually into the world at large. So my ask for everyone that has things that have blocked them from doing great things is to hurdle over them, slide underneath them, knock them over, walk around them, roll around them, but don't let them stop you from doing what you're called to do next. Okay, Abigail and friends, I hope that inspired you to get that book, share your heart, share your story. Big brothers, big sisters of Eastern Missouri, we have a question. What have you learned from your little brother over the years? Well, I have two, so I'm glad you made the little brother plural. I learned from both of them how to be grateful for the little things. My favorite story of Travion, he's my first little brother, and we've only been matched with Cal for about 6 months, and we already love him. But with Travion, I remember there was a game. We were at my house one night making lasagna. My mom and dad were there. My 5 siblings were there. Their spouses were there. Their children were there. It was a mess, okay? I have 4 kids myself. Like, there were people all over the place. And so I spent no time with him that night whatsoever. It was just chaos. He was running around with everybody else. And then a little girl came up to me and she goes, where's that one boy that we don't really know? And I thought I knew who she was referring to because everyone else is family. And she said, the one with the red shirt. There were other ways to define Travion, but she didn't see them. All she saw was the shirt he was wearing so she could quickly run and find him and play with him more. On the way home that night with Travion, I'm taking him back and I'm like, Travion, listen, man, next time I pick you up for a little play date, dude, we are going to party. It's just going to be me and you. You're going to have my eyes on you the entire time. I'm going to be focused. And he said to me, John, I don't know what you're talking about. This was one of the best nights of my life. To be with your family and to be part of your family. It's one of the best nights of my life, man. That's what I've learned from Big Brothers, Big Sisters, that you can live in different areas. You can worship differently. You can work differently. You can earn differently. You can look differently. And we are bonded by the same human heart. And the sooner we learn that, if the COVID crisis doesn't remind us of that what happens in one part of the world affects us all in every part of the world, what will? Honestly, what happens in a small little part of a place you've never been to can have a sweeping effect in your life. Walls can't be built high enough to protect you from it. What will? We are one family. Travion reminds me of that. I hope he reminds you of that as well today. And so, my friends, the final question I think we ought to take right now, because I know it's going late. I know many of you are getting ready to go outside and catch some lightning bugs and step into your day. So, Neil and leaders who are serving up the questions right now, the question comes from Pat. Is it better to order through Amazon or through the In-All website? This one also probably comes to you from my mother, Susan O'Leary. It sounds like a seeded question, doesn't it? But Pat, I know you're being honest. I appreciate your question. To me, it doesn't matter. I love when people buy at their local retailer. I love the little guy. I feel like I am. I feel like I'm David, man. Goliath's a big beast. So if you want to buy from Amazon or one of the big carriers, do it. Do it. It's a great way to get your book. They'll have it to you by Sunday and probably no charge on it. But if you want to support someone who's down the street from you, someone who is buying groceries in your same neighborhood, someone who's raising their kids or taking care of their parents in the same neighborhood, consider the independent book retailers right down the street. These small businesses, and I'm one of them, are struggling mightily during the season. So you can buy them on inaw.com, or I'm sorry, it's called readinaw.com. You can buy it at Amazon or B&N, or you can go to any local book retailer that is across the street from you. And I think anywhere you get it, it's perfect. It's appropriate. I'm grateful for it. And so is Big Brothers, Big Sisters. And so will you be once you step into it. So I hope you enjoy that book. There's a final question that coming up right now. Julie Barron, what is the greatest lesson that you have learned from your own childhood? Living in awe through them. Through your own children. Living in awe through them. I think kids, Julie, are quite a bit like golden retrievers, which is a positive. They're not as hairy. They don't need to be groomed quite as frequently. But what I've learned from both my golden retriever and my children is how to forgive almost in real time. Have you noticed, Julie, and other listeners, and Chuck and everybody else, have you noticed how long we hold on to stuff that doesn't really matter? You know, something she said to you when he made that comment about you, how they raised you, where they put your seat on your first day of work, all this garbage. It is garbage. It is utter garbage. We make a big deal out of a tweet. kids yawn. Kids yawn. They don't really care. They see the heart. They see the joy. They offer forgiveness. They give grace. And they teach us, I think, how to become far better in our own journey through life. And so I'm on the way. I wrote that book in part for my kids, but I had to write it for myself to read it. I need to be reminded of what it looks like to live in awe for the days where I forget. And Abigail, I see that you talk with a communication device. You sent me a signal book of On Fire. You inspire me. Thank you for answering my question. Abigail, you inspire me. To be honest, people frequently say, John, what president are you most inspired by? What athlete? Who is it who you've had steak dinners with? Man, I'm not all that impressed by the folks who've climbed to the tippity top of the ladder. I'm far more impressed by the people like Abigail who have dealt with a difficult journey in their life, who have shown us what it looks like to rise from those ashes, who continue to move forward in the life in spite of the headwind, and who remind us what courage looks like, what faithfulness looks like, and what we can look like if we choose it. So my friends, we are moving toward the end of our hour and 18-minute party together. Grab your cocktail, grab your water, grab your Perrier. I don't know what you're drinking right now during this quarantine. Grab your beer. Mom, grab a second Cape Cod. It's time to raise it high. I want to thank you for being part of our community. I want to thank you for believing in our messages. I want to thank you for helping us share love, share hope, share impact. I want to thank you for believing like I do in Big Brothers Big Sisters. I want to thank our team. I can't do this by myself. And so I work with people far better than myself. And that's not humility. It's just truth. So Abby and Sandy and Heather and Brian and Amy and Raylene and Deanna and Michael Palgon in New York and our friends at Random House Penguin and everybody else who's been part of this journey, Paul and Julie, everybody. Man, I'm grateful for your belief in this process, in this project, and in the truth. And it is the truth that the best is yet to come. So my friends, I wrap up almost every podcast, almost every interview, almost every newsletter with these words. So we might as well wrap up our toast together tonight. So raise them high, whatever's in your glass for this time. And until next time, my name is John O'Leary. This is your day. Even still, live on fire, live inspired, and live in awe. God bless you guys. Have an awesome night. The best is yet to come. Take it away.
When you're feeling lost, dark and alone, call my name and I'll be there to light your way back home. When everything you need is everything that's missing, and no one ever thinks to stop, so no one ever stops to listen. Don't you know it's alright? Nothing worth it's ever easy. You better buckle up, yeah. 'Cause we'll be moving up like George and Wheezy. When I see you smile, it feels like home. So come on, let me see you smile. Forget all your troubles for a little while. The sun is always shining, it's gonna be alright, alright. Come on now and let me see you smile. Let it all hang out for just a little while. Wide awake dreaming, it's gonna be alright. Let me see you smile now. Let me see you smile, yeah. When the walls around you are closing in, and all the games that people play, you know they ain't ever gonna win. When the ground below you is falling away, we will thank God for this life, for this moment, for this day, 'cause you know it's alright, hey. Nothing worth it's ever easy. You better buckle up, you better hold on tight now. We'll be moving up like George and Wheezy. When I see you smile, well I know I know that I'm home, so come on, let me see you smile. Forget all your troubles for a little while. Sun is always shining, it's gonna be alright, alright. Come on down and let me see you smile. Let it all hang up for just a little while. I'm wide awake dreaming, it's gonna be alright, yeah. I never needed celebrity or fame. Never felt the need to play those games. You should know that all I need, all I really need, is to see you smile. Yeah. Hey. So come on, let me see you smile. Yeah, it's alright, it's alright. Come on, let me see you smile. Yeah, it's alright, it's alright. Come on, let me see you smile. Yeah, it's alright, it's alright. Come on, let me see you smile. When you're feeling lost, dark and alone, call my name and I'll be there to light your way back home. Remember to smile. God bless every one of you. Make sure to spread the word about our friend, Mr. John O'Leary. John, thank you so much for having me be part of this night and for everything you've done for me over the past 10 years. God bless you and your family.
You're still here? You're still here, seriously. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, in awe, colleagues and friends and readers, it is time for you to get after it. Turn off the screen, look up at the stars, be in awe of the gift that is alive and well within your lives. So I love Ferris Bueller. I asked the producer to let me come on one final time at the end of the program, just again to say thank you. You could have been doing a million things tonight, and you chose to spend your evening with us. So John Daly and everybody else who's still tuning in, I can't believe how many people are still with us. Thank you for believing. Thank you for fighting forward. And thank you for knowing, like I do, that our best days remain in front of us. So Jackie, everybody else, God bless, living on. Have a great night. Thank you again. Take care.